We're here today with Emma Chamberlain, the co-founder of Chamberlain Coffee. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So you are the co-founder of Chamberlain Coffee, but you're also many, many other things. Your career spans from traveling for things like fashion weeks to creating your own independent content to building this company. It's a pretty non-traditional career, especially for someone of 22 years old. So how, when you were growing up, did you envision what a career would look like for you? Did it look like this?
It definitely did not look like this. I think it's very easy to sort of fall into a traditional sort of plan. And so, I imagined myself going to college for at least 4 years. It was a goal for me to go to a really good school and hopefully get, some sort of scholarship maybe. Like that was a huge, huge focus for me. And then, I had a few job interests. I was really interested in math and science. So I was considering, I actually wanted to be an anesthesiologist for a little bit because I was like a little too young to understand that that's a really complicated job. And I just saw that it made a lot of money and that it was math and science related. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll do that.
Had you ever been put under anesthesia before?
Yes, and that's actually one of the other reasons why I kind of wanted to do it, because my anesthesiologist gave me such a great experience. He played a music video for me while I was going under, and then I woke up and it was like nothing ever happened, and he really calmed my anxiety as an anxious person. So I was very grateful for him. But again, I'm kind of glad I didn't do that. I don't know how that would have worked out for me.
In your early days creating YouTube videos, you really kind of stumbled upon editing and shooting style that really ultimately skyrocketed your success. Walk me through those early days and kind of finding your niche on such a saturated and growing platform at the time.
So I started, as most people start with anything, mimicking what was out there, because I think that's how you learn. If you've never done something before, the best thing you can do is copy others. So I started out by definitely copying. I was doing what was popular for people my age, similar to me, which was a lot of, makeup, fashion, beauty related content. Pretty prim and proper, very, nice setup, nice background, the whole thing. And, maybe a more sort of personality wise, maybe a bit more refined in a way, right? And I mimicked that for a while. And then, I made it a goal to make a video every day during the summer, because I started during the summer. And when you're doing something as consistently as every day, you naturally get bored of things and want to start trying new things. So I owe my fast evolution to that let me do it every day sort of goal. And I, very quickly became bored of that thing. Also realized that wasn't me. It works for other people, it just doesn't work for me. So then I naturally started vlogging and just filming my everyday. And I ended up loving that the most. And then again, when you're doing something every day, it evolves. So very quickly, I was like, well, I'm bored of this vlogging, this way of vlogging. Let me, build it up. And my dad told me from the day that I started my channel that I need to be fully myself. And I hadn't been in the very beginning. This all happened in the span of 2 months, by the way. But he was like, you need to be yourself. And I really struggled with that for the first month. But very quickly, I became comfortable and was able to do that, because I was just forcing myself to dive in head first and just get good at it, really. And it became this goal of making a video that's as entertaining as possible, but also as me as possible, and also as funny as possible. I wanted it to be funny at the time. That was my main goal. But it became this sort of art form for me. How can I make the mundane, me being mundane, the subject matter being mundane, as interesting as possible? And then that has sort of followed me ever since.
Definitely. Throughout that journey, you started it in high school. You've had quite the change of, your character online, the way that you're, performing online, the different types of content, your style evolution. How do you describe the different eras of Emma Chamberlain?
Yes. So I would say the very beginning is Emma being a YouTuber. I didn't fit quite right there. So then it became Emma being her wild teenage self, honestly, for many years, just playing. It was Emma's playing. She's having fun. The videos are super energetic. I had a lot of energy naturally at that time. That's just who I was. So these videos were very energetic. And then I think it's sort of transitioned to like, I sort of had maybe an existential crisis, which was a more quiet, more maybe aesthetically driven sort of video style, less personality. I was going through a personality shift myself, so it was very hard for me to figure out, okay, what am I putting out there? So that was more of a quieter time. I call that the quiet time. And then I would say where I'm at now is like very much sort of a mix of the two, actually. Like there's still, the personality's coming back. I'm feeling like, okay, I know who I am as an adult now. I can show myself again, and that feels comfortable. But, you know, as an adult, I'm more aesthetically driven than I was as a kid. So like the videos, I want them to look cool too, like, and look nice. But now YouTube is really fun for me again too, because I think you go through a weird, when something becomes your job, you know, your relationship with it changes. So I think now I'm enjoying it again. And I don't have as much time to do it as I wish I did, but that time will come later and I can play around even more again later.
I know in other interviews and in speaking with other people, you've talked a lot about your intuition guiding you, and that, you know, in many ways it told you to step back for a while from YouTube.
Yeah.
Are you starting to move back in that direction again? How are you kind of managing where your like heart and soul is telling you to go next?
Yes, my heart and soul is loving YouTube again. Like I'm ready to be back. I like feel ready to be back. I think the main reason for that is, well, two main reasons. Number one, because I think I've been able to sort of develop my personality as an adult off screen. It's very hard to develop your personality when you're on camera every day. I don't know what it is, but it can stunt growth weirdly. And I felt that intuitively. And I was like, I need to transition from being a teenager to being an adult by myself for a minute. Like I have to, because I only know how to be on camera as a teenager. I don't know who I am when the camera's off, so I had to shut the camera off. You know, I've been able to develop that. And now, you know, it's natural for me again to be on camera. But on top of that, you know, I've been able to diversify sort of my businesses and things like that so that I have a bit more space to change myself on YouTube. It's very scary to change something when it's your job and it's working.
Yeah.
And so because I've diversified now, if I want to change things up on YouTube, I'm not afraid, because that is not my job anymore technically, right? So it's given me so much freedom, and it's allowing me to re-enter into it, which I've not even nearly re-entered it to the level that I plan to, but you know, it's like I am able to play there. But also I think with me and YouTube, like I'm more in the mood to make longer videos that, you know, maybe I only upload every once in a while. Like that's what I'm more interested in. You can't do that if it's your job. So there are so many good things happening with my relationship with YouTube that just took time to figure out. And it was hard because I kept trying to put myself back into it too soon, but intuitively and emotionally, I'm loving it again. And my relationship with it is very healthy.
Yeah, well, I'm sure many people will be excited to hear that. But in terms of your job today, what do you then consider it? What are you relying on to ensure that the YouTube can be something that's for, you know, a passion project or something you just love to do?
Yes, there are a few things that don't contribute to like paying the bills, right? But maybe there's longer term goals with them. Like I think YouTube is absolutely that. Even Chamberlain Coffee is that. You know, I'm putting all of the money back into that business right now. And so I'm not, that is for now a passion project really. I mean, it's a business, but it can't, I'm fortunate that it gets to be a passion project because I'm not relying on that for my income. Right now, my podcast has become sort of my, what I would say is my traditional like job, you know, like that's my job, but also, you know, brand partnerships as well. And I've really just loved the way that I've been able to do brand partnerships more recently because they feel much more like collaborations now more than ever. I enjoy the creative side of working with brands and marketing brands. Like I love that. And so I do that a lot with Chamberlain Coffee, but I also do that a lot with other brands as well. Figuring out creative ways and intriguing ways to market product. That passion, it was unexpected, but has become something that I love.
I definitely want to ask about that because I think that the way that you've worked with brands like Levi's, Aritzia, Louis Vuitton, all these kind of fashion houses that have their own marketing teams, their own kind of ideas of where they want to take their campaigns and their partnerships and things like that. What is your role when you come into partnerships like that? How do you ensure that anything that you're doing is still really, keyed in on like what the Emma Chamberlain brand is, even though it is partnering with these other major companies?
I think it's a balance because, brands have their own sort of vision, and I absolutely respect that. You're taking two identities, right? I mean, I think it's a little different because one is sort of a brand identity and one is sort of a personal identity. But, there's two forces here, and it's finding a brand who's willing to do a few things. Number one, create something that feels us. But number two, them allow me to, when it comes to like my social media, for example, or the content that I'm putting out into the world from my hands, right? That feels me ultimately, because I don't feel comfortable putting something out that doesn't feel like me. But then at the same time, I also do that for them. So there are times when I'm a canvas for them, right? And that's sort of this compromise that we are, not even compromise, but that's sort of a part of the collaboration. Both parties get to be themselves with the other present, but then also there's something that's us too. And maybe that's like the main campaign that goes out into the world. Maybe that's, a video that we make for their channel or something. It's like everybody gets what they want and what they need. It's complicated, but it is worth it because I think that it creates the most intriguing, exciting sort of content at the end of the day.
Definitely. Building your own brand then, Chamberlain Coffee, I'm sure that it's a different experience coming into, whether it's a marketing campaign or a social media post or all the packaging of the coffee and all those sorts of things. Why do you think you were the right person to start this brand? Obviously, you had a lot of coffee in your YouTube videos. You talked about a lot. It was a big part of your life. But taking that from, a video that you share with people online to a consumer product is a pretty big jump. So why were you the right person to create a consumer product surrounding coffee?
Well, I think for one, I have built a level of trust with my personal audience around coffee because for years, not only was it a huge topic of my videos just naturally, but also I've recommended coffee places. I've recommended coffee products. And I think, there's a level of trust with me and my taste for coffee, for one. But for two, I've always been obsessed with coffee as a product from, cafe culture to also other caffeinated beverages. That has always been such a special thing to me. And it's always been a passion for me since before I started my YouTube. And I think when it comes to creating a brand, I'm a home barista just like the rest of us in a way. And what was inspiring to me was like, how can I create a brand that feels bright, feels fun, feels playful, feels inviting? And also when it comes to even developing the blends, creating something for my generation, also creating something that's approachable, but also something that feels like it's for everyone in a way, like even flavor profile wise.
Coming from the creative side of things, so having that experience in YouTube and content creation and marketing and branding and the ways that you did, what were the steps that you had to take to ensure that you did have people who were qualified to like allow you to create a product that people would consume? Because there are so many regulations that come with that. Many steps through the process, whether it is like ingredients, even manufacturing and packaging. What were the steps that you had to take to build a team that you could really come together to build a product like this?
Yes. Well, I think it is really filling the gaps. Like when, I have maybe the creative vision, I have maybe the overall vision, but I can't do it all. As you're building the business, you're slowly but surely, almost like chaotically figuring out what you need next, Like, okay, the first step was finding a company that already exists that could help to create basically coffee pros who can roast the beans in the exact way that I want them so that it can taste exactly how I want it to taste. And so it was finding that. And then it was working with investors so that we had the money to eventually rebrand. And then when we were rebranding, it's finding, creative illustrators and people like that to come in and build it out. And then from there, it's been like, okay, now we need a CEO. Okay, who's that going to be? And it's interviewing as many people as you possibly can until you feel it in your heart, like they get it.
So are you interviewing everybody that comes through the company? And besides that, like what else does your day-to-day entail with Chamberlain Coffee?
Yes, I'm in a lot of the interviews. A lot of times it is really challenging because, I have so many, at this point, pieces of my business that I have to manage, and there are some that I need to be more involved in than others. Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to like interviewing, for example, a lot of times the beginning stages of interviews, for example, those will happen with the team that I've already built out. Like I'm lucky that now we have that built out so that when I'm in the interview and I'm really, making the big choices, it's instead of being 15 people, it's 2, it's 3. When it comes to the day-to-day, it's a lot of approvals. It's a lot of things coming in from the team that we've built, whether it's like creative concepts for shoots or for, campaigns or for product or for, whatever it may be. And it's comes to me, I send my notes, I maybe send a completely new idea. I'm like, no, it's this actually. And then it's a back and forth like that a lot of times. And what's interesting is, I'm obsessed with retail strategy. Like I love that journey as well.
Well, I'm excited to hear that you are passionate about the retail strategy because that is something I want to talk about too. Moving into places like Walmart, Whole Foods, you are in multiple stores right now. Why was that something that you guys wanted to prioritize, and what has that process been like, moving, like you said, from just D2C to these multiple different avenues now?
D2C businesses for a long time, it was almost like the trend, right? Like sort of really leaning into social media marketing and really leaning into D2C. That was sort of the structure of the moment, especially like, what was it? During COVID, I would say for sure that was what it was. And then, coming out of COVID, it was like, okay, what do we do now? Do we want to keep that? Or do we want to play a bit? Do we want to get into the real world? And I think, are we ever going to stop shopping in store? I don't think so. I love going to the store. I mean, maybe one day it will completely not exist. We'll never go to a grocery store again. But I think that experience cannot be ignored even during, this very digital time that we're living in. Like we ultimately decided that we can't overlook retail. On top of that, we also, we're excited about developing something sort of ready to drink. That was always in our head, and we're like, okay, excited about doing that. Not sure exactly what that would look like for a while. It was like, okay, do we want it to be exactly my recipe? Do we want it to be, something else? What is that? Is it just like a really good black coffee? Like, what is it? But then we had some interest from retailers asking us, do you have a ready to drink beverage? And then it was like, okay, you know what? This has all been in our head, festering. And now the opportunity's here. This is something that's desirable. So we were like, okay, this is great. Let's do this. Going into ready to drink, that's a different category. It's also a category where there's some gaps, kind of for a reason, because it's a very challenging category to get right. But it's been good because we've learned a lot, and we love, and we're so proud of what we have out there now.
I know that you have some ready to drink stuff coming with Target that'll be launching soon. Besides that, what else is Chamberlain Coffee working on right now in terms of like what you're building for the future? I know you have some partnerships coming up for events in California and some other, campaigns and collections. So walk me through like where your sights are set for the next like 6 to 12 months.
Yes, we have some really fun collaborations with brands that have a similar sort of DNA to us. Like 818 is a great example. Base is a great example where, they're both sort of brands that were started by other girlies in this industry, which is so cool. Also two businesses that I really admire, like, specifically with 818, like, it's like, it has this sort of like young and fun sort of feel, but it's also very chic and elevated at the same time. And then there's base, that genius, innovators in the luggage space, like genuinely. They're both brands that I respect and I admire. And so it's exciting to get to work with them and do something with them, because it's like, let's just lift each other up. That always feels good. In general, we're just excited about, various ways that we can pop up in as many places as possible and just kind of get people trying the product. When it comes to what we're developing, I mean, I think actually a lot of my focus right now is like refining what we have, weirdly enough. I mean, we've experimented a lot, and I think we figured out what works, what doesn't work. And I think we want to go back in and refine and perfect. I think especially what's exciting is, with the ready to drink lattes, like coming out with new flavors. Like that's a part of sort of refining. It's like adding more flavors, even like little things like refining the packaging, refining the branding. Like those can often get overlooked when you're trying to scale a business. You're like, well, I just need to come out with this new product that's going to be huge and it's going to be, and that's not always what it is. There are things to refine. So I think we're in a refining phase right now more than ever. And just also like coming into ourselves as a brand.
Knowing the challenges that you've gone through, but also, the exciting parts of building the brand. If you could tell yourself something the day before you started the company, what would it be?
I would tell myself that I'm going to need to be patient because things take so long. I would also tell myself it's not always going to be done perfectly the first time. It's just not. It is just not. Like we give individuals grace. You know what I mean? We give individuals grace. Like it's not always, but we try to, right? Give other human beings the space to make mistakes. But when it comes to a business, arguably rightfully so, we give much less grace. It's like, you didn't get it right the first time? Okay, peace. And understandably so, because you're paying money for a product and you want it to be done right the first time. You pay money for, an experience, you want it to be perfect. That even comes from the inside as well, where I'm like, why didn't this product do well? Like I thought this product was gonna do well. Like, why didn't this product do well? When you open it up, it's a bunch of individuals who really care most of the time about the integrity of the brand, things being done right, the customer having a phenomenal experience. Like that's what we all want for the most part. And I think if I could have told myself anything, it would have been, these are all humans here. And, not everything's going to be perfect. We're not a machine. It might look like a machine. It might sort of feel like a machine, but it's not. It's absolutely not. And I think having grace, mainly from the inside, is so key. And being patient with myself too. Like I might have an idea and we do it and it sucks and it's not good. It doesn't work. But that's okay. You can't have ego in it either. Which luckily that's one thing I never did. I think I've always leaned closer to imposter syndrome than, ego. But I've definitely seen it as a machine and I've had to grow out of that for sure.
My last question for you, if you have some parting words to tell the audience, something that they might not know about you. I know it might be difficult because you share a lot of yourself online with the world. What is one thing that you wish people knew about you that they don't?
I think something that's interesting about me that is not maybe shown as often is how, like, I really do have this sort of bizarrely out of character sort of passion for business in a weird way. Like it doesn't make sense because all other facets of my personality could not be more the opposite. Like I've been known for everything but what we consider to be founding a brand, marketing a brand, running a business. Like nobody would have predicted this. Let's just say that. Not even myself. It happened almost on accident in a way, but I do have a passion for that, though my personality is still the same. Nobody's looking at me and saying, well, that's a businesswoman. Like when they talk to me, it's like, of course not. That's just not my personality. There is a personality, a stereotype that we associate with that. I just don't have that. I never will. And I don't have that now because of this sort of newfound passion in this experience. But like that's genuinely a passion for me. And I think most people, maybe people wouldn't know that. It's very common to see, the career trajectory that I've had. A lot of people start businesses who start in maybe entertainment and then start a business. It's very common. And there is sort of a stigma around it, like, well, it doesn't mean that you're passionate about the business. I don't know how, I don't know why, I don't know where, but it's the passion is there. I really am genuinely passionate about the journey of building a business in every single little corner of that.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with me about all of this. I'm super excited to see
Thank
where the
you.
brand and your career goes, and to see you on YouTube again soon, more regularly. I know you've been on a little, but thank you so much for taking the time to chat.
Thank you.